Anish Raman and get a sense of what has been going on so far today as this trial has recommenced. Anish, the headlines, if you will.
Yeah, Michael, essentially we're in hour 6 of today's trial session. We broke for lunch for about 2 hours or so. In the morning, we saw the first witness testify. We're now seeing the second. The morning witness was not anonymously testifying behind the blue curtain as we see now. Instead, he testified right in front of the 7 defendants and Saddam Hussein. Now, the main point that we've seen in terms of color within the courtroom is in terms of Saddam's demeanor, he's been incredibly subdued today, comparative to his previous visits to this courtroom where he is brazenly and defiantly questioned the legitimacy of the proceedings and the control of the court at the hands of the judge. Today he has been essentially quiet, speaking only twice, once to interrupt the witness this morning, saying that Saddam wanted to observe noon prayers. The judge said that the testimony would instead go forward, and so while the testimony was taking place, Saddam sort of shifted in his chair and began praying on his own. We then saw him at the end of the morning session, right before we broke for lunch, stand up and speak to the court, essentially calling into question the role of the prosecutor and the fact that Saddam says these witnesses are allowed to testify at will without strong cross-examination. The witness that we heard this morning is a man that I spoke to weeks ago in Dujil. He detailed to the court, as he detailed to me, the torture that was endured after years spent in prison, 7 of his brothers executed, 43 members of his family detained after that failed assassination attempt in 1982. Now, in that interview with me, he spoke of how his brother was involved in that failed assassination attempt. The defense lawyers this morning seizing upon that really and trying to almost explicitly paint the witness as part of the plot to kill Saddam Hussein. The witness held his ground, and again, he didn't speak anonymously. He was out in front of Saddam Hussein. So some dramatic moments from the witness testimony, a subdued Saddam, and the other important note is a very active Barzan Hassan al-Takriti, Saddam Hussein's half-brother, who at one point began yelling at the witness, calling him names, who said the soul of Taha Yassin Ramadan Shu, the former Iraqi vice president, is worth more than the life of the witness and his tribe. Michael?
Anish, now heard from 10 or so witnesses, emotional testimonies, as you said. What is the case looking like? Is it building? Has there been much of the evidence directly linking Saddam and his co-defendants?
There has not. This morning's witness was some of the strongest link that we've seen to at least Barzan Hassan al-Takriti, Saddam Hussein's half-brother. He placed him not only in jail, but in the actual interrogation room while he was being tortured, as well as the torture of his sister. But what we have to keep in mind are the multiple sort of segments of this trial. These are complaint witnesses here to just sort of provide victim testimonies, if you will. The next set of witnesses will provide relevant information about the case. Then we will see documentary evidence. Then they will formally put together a charging document, and then you have the prosecution and the defense witnesses, and then the defense counsel and the defendants addressing the trial. So for the prosecution, they're not at the stage where they're sort of compelled to place forward direct evidence. These witnesses merely here for emotional effect in terms of what happened in the aftermath of that alleged incident.
Indeed.
Michael?
And Anish, the judge, as you said, Saddam Hussein, much more demure. What about the control of the court, of the case by the judge? Last time when Saddam was a little more unruly, the judge was criticised for not taking control. Have we seen any change in how he has altered his own tactics?
Well, it seems that the court is moving at a quicker pace. We're certainly getting through these witnesses, although not at a fast pace. The defendants, especially Saddam Hussein, not as vocal in court, although we did hear from Barzan Hassan al-Takriti. So the proceedings, it seems, affected more by the fact that Saddam has been subdued, as well as the other defendants, more so than a judge that's been in control, because at times the testimony has been unwieldy. But, Michael, I just have to go now to go back into the courtroom.
All right, Anish Raman, we'll let you go. Thanks so much, our own Anish Raman, covering this trial from inside the courtroom. We're going to return now to our coverage of the testimony. Let's listen in.
My friend and I out. I said, release us. I was employed and I had no income, and I had family to support, so I don't know what happened to my family. I don't know what happened to my children. So we didn't know anything about our families. What income can I get? They said they said no, we'll restore your employment. and I came back to my employment. And my 4 children disappeared. After that, when the regime fell down, 4 were executed, and I was supposed to be executed also. But by God's grace, I was saved. So explain, what do you mean you were executed? Explain to us. And the lists that came showing who was executed after the fall of Baghdad, my name was amongst those who were supposed to have been executed. Who is he complaining against? I'm filing a complaint against Saddam, against Barzan, against Bandar, and Taha Yassin Ramadan, and Abu Nabil, who was there in the jail, the security officer, and Mash'an Dahan. They are at the head of the chain of those who are responsible. That's my complaint. Two of my nephews were killed and my 4 killed. Why are you complaining against Taha Yassin Ramadan? He was with them in the plowing the farms. Do you have questions? Yes. Do you have questions? Yes. I was executed. And also, when we looked at the judgment by the Revolutionary Court, his name appeared amongst the 148 victims. And his name also appeared the presidential decree that certifies the execution order of the 148. So the question is, can you describe to us what happened during your trial, the trial of the 148, and you were listed amongst them in the court? Did you stand before a trial? I didn't see a court. I wasn't in a trial. The second question: did you have any farm or a house, and what was the fate of your house or farm? What? Yes, I had a farm, and I had 2 houses at that time. One house I found to be there, and there's another house that I used to rent out. I saw that the security have kicked out the tenants and they demolished the house. Thank you. Can you allow me to see the defense, the complaint witness? Yes. The first question. Did he participate in the assassination, or did he play a role in the assassination plot? He said that he heard. Some said it was an assassination, some said it was a joyous event. What does he know about? Ask him what does he know about the assassination plot. Which assassination? There was no assassination. There was no assassination. Was there an assassination operation against Saddam Hussein in 1982? Never. We never heard about that. Even when they took us to interrogation, nobody mentioned that Saddam came under attack. They never interrogated about that. All the people, they did not investigate. Only they asked about if we were in Dawa party, and that only those two things. You mentioned that your sons were killed. Were the four all killed in the confrontation, the military confrontation? Where your no? Only one was killed in the battle. What was his name? Who the name of your son who was killed? The prosecutor. No, we need to know one or four. One was killed, yes. Was he killed in confrontation with security forces or in an accident? How was he killed? On Friday, the farms and the streets were full with army, and the planes were also firing. I was at home. I was not out, so I didn't see anything. But I saw the planes shooting at the farms and on the houses. From the morning till the evening, until they brought me, and I saw the 9 bodies. I saw them at the headquarters. Was he killed by the shooting of the plane? Either by the army or by the plane. So he was killed. So he was killed through the. So he wasn't killed in the street. There was a confrontation. You mentioned that. Where was he when he was killed? I don't know. He doesn't know. But he identified the body. They showed me the body of my son. They showed me the bodies. Did you see anybody being killed before your eyes? By God, in my eyes, Mash'an brought me and the security officer, and they took me from the by car from my home to the bodies. Did you see the killing in front of you? You haven't seen anybody, or you haven't seen the question is suggestive. I have the right to ask the question. No, the question is not suggestive. When did you file the complaint against the defendants? After the invasion, or was it before? Or is it because of the invasion? When did you file the complaint? This is my complaint now. So this is a new complaint. I couldn't complain before. Thank you. When the time of the accident, where were you? He said at home. On the street by my house. How far from the street is your house? Three houses. Why were you sitting on the street? We were old people sitting in the shade. We were fasting. We would sit to spend time. Do you have a farm? Yes, I have a farm. Is it ownership? Do you have a deed, or do you have a deed? Do you have a deed, a title, an ownership? Yes, I have. Where was your son at the time of? Where were your sons at the time of the accident? One was in the army, in the reserve. They brought him from his unit. He was employed, but he was in Salah ad-Din. And in the Iran war, he was born in 1957, so they put him in army. When this happened, they took him from the unit to join us, and the rest, the other was in the Za'araniya Institute. He was in the Popular Army in Taji. And after a week, they brought him to us. The one that was killed, where was he? Where was the? I thought he was in the college. I thought he was the one that was killed in Dujil. That was the one who was killed. Okay. So he was killed in the farm or in the city? I don't know if it's in the farm or in the city. I saw him already killed. Was he killed with bullets, or I don't know. I don't have the means to prove how he was. This is question. I'm illiterate. The question is, how was he killed? With a bullet? Was he killed by a bullet or shrapnels? I saw bullets and wounds from shot. I saw him killed. I was almost unconscious when I saw him killed. Did you receive the body? No, they did not give us the body. They took me directly to the intelligence at that time. And my daughters, and the shelling was on the houses or on the farms? On the farms and on the city. So your son, how did you know when you went to the intelligence that this was intelligence? The popular army was there. The intelligence was there. The Republic Guards. How did you know this? The building was the intelligence building. The building, you mean? Yeah. 140 persons in that hall. They. How did you know this was the building of the intelligence? After that we knew. Not at that time. After that we knew. How did you know? When we were in Abu Ghraib, they would call for people and take them to the intelligence. So he heard, he was not sure. Who was standing with you on the street at the time of the accident? Some old people from the city. I don't remember. The people who were killed. We were fasting. Who was killed with your son? He doesn't know. They're from the same area. Do you forget or do you have good memory? Or do you have good memory? He mentioned the security person. Who was with you in the hall? How many in the hall? How many people? 145. When they would count us, some are standing, some are sleeping. We had no place. The house in the farm, was it hit? The house in the... Were they hit? Did they suffer any damage? We went after Did you have a house in the farm? No, we didn't. We don't have a house on the farm. Did they compensate you for the farm? It's 4 acres. Did they pay you for it? After they gave me a little. They gave me some little. Was your son accused to belong to Dawah party? The one that was killed? Was the government accusing him to belonging to... Was he charged with anything or accused of... I don't know. When you were released, did you file a complaint or not? Did you file a suit? No. No, he did not. Why are you complaining, filing a complaint against Saddam, Barzan, and Taha Yasser Ramadan?
ليش تقيم الدعوة على المتهمين اللي ذكرتهم أنت؟
Who else would I have filed a complaint against? I have four of my sons, 2 of my nephews. Who would I file a complaint against? Who was in charge? Who was in charge? Saddam was the responsible. Barzan was responsible. Why didn't you file a complaint against those who hit your son?
تعرف اللي ضرب ابنك؟ تعرفه تحديدا؟ تعرف؟
Do you know?
إذا تعرف سجل عليهم.
Do you know if you know their names? If you know their names, would you file a complaint against them? If you know specifically who killed, would you complain? File a complaint? How would I know? The question is, if you know, if the investigation showed you who actually did it, would you file a complaint against him? Against the person that the the complaint is for those who brought me, and do you sick or are you okay now? I have the right to ask you. Your Honor, it's my right. It's rejected. It's rejected. It was rejected because it's not productive question. In the name of God, I'd like to ask that he specifically says why is he complaining, what is the complaint against Taha Yasser Ramadan? He was with them when they plowed the farms. When we came back, they told us that it was Taha Yasser Ramadan. He was present with the we were in the prison when this happened, but we were told it was Taha Yasser Ramadan. No, he did not. So he heard that. Thank you. In the name of God, most merciful. Your Honor, I would like for him to determine the times when he was in Abu Ghraib in the intelligence and in the desert. He said 3.5 in the desert, 1 year and 2 months in the Abu Ghraib, and 17 days in the intelligence. 17 days. The others all said that this is 4 years. So they seem to be all coached. But I have a question: does he have any document? They seem to be all coached. But I have a question: does he have any document that would prove that he was in the desert? Do you have anything official that proves that you were in the desert? All those who were, he had officials. I have witnesses. My question is, did he have a file or did he have a... Peace be upon you. Your Honor, I'd like to ask the witness, he mentioned that when he was taken down to interrogation, that means that there was interrogation. How many interrogation sessions did he undergo? I think he said three times. So the first witness said no interrogation. How was the interrogation? You said 3 times you were taken to interrogation. How was it carried out? How was interrogation carried out? They asked me if I was giving food to my son, and I would say that no, I know. Who was interrogating him? Was it a judge or a officer? They were from the intelligence. I don't know their names. They were investigators. Abu Nabil used to come, and he also came to Abu. He said he saw Barzan with the interrogators. The first was saying Barzan and armed. How did he recognize them as interrogators in the party headquarters? I don't know them. I don't know their names. When they brought me, did he produce Abu Nabil? I knew. Yes, I have the death certificates. Are they attached as exhibits? Yes. Are they recent? You will look at the evidence. Thank you. No other. Your Honor, the witness, I challenge his he's prejudiced because he has four sons killed. The prosecutor last time, he told us that we were the executors, and he calls the witnesses that as victims. When Clinton hit Baghdad because Iraq was accused of trying to assassinate Bush, 400 missiles, and Iraqis killed, they're not victims. When another question? Your Honor, I noticed that the witnesses repeat the same language, and you as a professional judge and a professional in law will leave the interpretation to you. In Syria they say this is the same song, so the saying goes that this is the same song, so those people are singing the same song. And this older gentleman, he says, we heard this is intelligence, but when we press him, he says, well, Mash'an came and another security person came. So where is the intelligence in all of that? The security apparatus, as I told you before, in previous sessions, the security is independent. It's not part of the intelligence, and it doesn't belong to the intelligence. They say they took us to the security, and then they took us to the Samawa, and then sometimes they say they took us to the intelligence. This talk is not logical, is not accepted. not administratively, not scientifically. You know, you didn't come from the moon, you are an Iraqi, you know the structure of the government, you are a professional employee, you know that the administrative hierarchy of the government, and you know which department belongs to what. For the second, third, or fourth time, I repeat that this is issue that belonged to the general security, because there was a law in the government of Ba'ath where jurisdictions of departments were determined. At that time there were three systems in Iraq: the general security, which anything Iraqi is under its jurisdiction, whether it's persons or political entities or departments and organizations, and then the military intelligence that was responsible for the army and its security and the information, and the intelligence, which is a political system whose jurisdiction was anything other than Iraqi. Arabs or foreigners, political entities, organizations, but not Iraqi. And you know that. I went to the jail, as I mentioned before, because I was at that time responsible for the security protection of the president. To personal protection and safety was my responsibility. And I told Mr. Juhi that when he asked me, and I told him yes, I went the first day and the second day. And he started to give the clerk, and he dictated I went there as the head of the intelligence. I said no, I went not as the head of intelligence. I went there because I was responsible for the security of the president. As of the psychological standpoint, it is known, and the humanitarian, from a human standpoint also, it's known that anytime a person is getting older, he'll get closer to God, and getting closer to God is known, and that's through avoiding false statements and avoiding lying under oath. I'm not a religious person. I don't have a religious education, but this is a general religious education. Whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim believing God, that's what you do. The Mr. there, behind the screen, seems to be an older gentleman. I don't know exactly how old he is. And of course, terms are in the hand of God, as we say in Iraqi literature or sayings. When is he going to abide by his conscience so that he is complying with God's commandments? Did he see me in the headquarters amongst the tens and 100s and hundreds of people? I'm the only one to be seen, and I'm the one sitting in a chair in the interrogation. That was not my job. Is it the jurisdiction of my department? No. Yes, if it was my jurisdiction and I am the head of that apparatus, and the issue is related to the president, then it is my responsibility and I should do it. I should be supervising on a daily basis, and I should get follow-ups from the interrogators so that I stay on top of the investigation. That was if I was the responsible. But I will not. You are the government now. Why? The first witness finds the files. When I asked him, how did you find those files, where in fact there are files for an important department, he said, I saw it in Al-Mansur. So the intelligence finds nowhere but to put the files in in the warehouses in Mansour, so that this brother you take it? Yes, okay. Then I'm not going to argue that. I'm agreeing. I'll agree that he found it. But if he saw that, why did he not see a paper that was presented by an investigative judge or some director in the intelligence, that to the head of the intelligence, sir, we want your guidance, or we want your approval, or this or that. There was no such paper with a signature by me, or I challenge everybody to bring me one piece of paper that has my initials. Anything. Do you think that any evidence produced against you should be seen by the defendant? But we're not talking about the evidence or exhibits. Any exhibit will not be admissible unless it is presented to you. So when your turn comes to talk about those exhibits, and you have any comment, then you will be given. This is premature. You're talking about exhibits, and we haven't reached that stage yet. The evidence and the exhibits will be presented to you. Just like you listen to the witness, you will also get to see the exhibits. Your Honor, the convictions are formed gradually. It's like a pond. It's a drop after a drop after a drop. Every day we're being told, you and everybody else, every session, the same is being repeated, and nobody is challenging them. Yes. I'm telling you, this hierarchy, and it's an evidence at a time. I can tell you that it cannot be such a case, such a dangerous and serious case cannot come to my attention if I were the head of the intelligence. So he mentioned this respected person. He said he saw me in the headquarters of the party. How did he know that this was Barzan? In the party headquarters, how did he identify him as Barzan? I know him. I've seen him before. I saw him on TV. He is always on TV on Thursday and on Friday. Did you understand the question? He's seen you on the TV. He knows Barzan because he's the brother of Saddam. But physically, how does he know me physically? If you ask, he says that he saw you on TV. But what allowed me, the way he knew me, that I was the brother of Saddam, and I'm proud of that. Yes, but physically, how would he know me? I was not on TV. Have you seen me on TV? I had no capacity to get on. I'm not a minister of health or agriculture or foreign minister. The nature of my business my job would not get me on TV. These are all answers, Your Honor. These are all answers to the prosecution. Another question? And also, he says also that he saw me at the intelligence with the interrogators. Was it written on their forehead that they were interrogators? And also, how did he know who I was then? He said he didn't know. Your Honor, hearsay and I heard and this and that, that's all nonsense. He says when they went to the desert, some came and took their names and they got cars and so on. Everybody else, those said that they were given to the security. Everybody, all the other witnesses said that they were taken. They really counted the same story, but they said they took us to the Samawa, and these are stone houses and bad housing conditions and so on. But nobody said. We asked him. He says that the person who came, he told them that he was from the Dajjal. His answer was that he said he was illiterate. I don't know if he was, if he means doesn't read and write. He is tired. Everybody were smart and were coached and everything. They all said that it was security. Now he's now retracting and saying intelligence. That's not right. The lists of the executed. Who brought those lists? And he said that he saw a list of those who were to execute, and his name was on them. Who brought the lists? The office, the prison. He says the Free Prisoners organization brought them to the jail. The second time, after he was released from the desert and they came to the jail, he says they were taken another time, arrested another time. Why was he arrested? And what questions was he asked? Ask him why he was arrested again. They took me. I was asking for my rights, for my salary. You went out of the desert and then you said you were arrested one more time. Why? Yes, they took me from the house. Why? I don't know the reasons. I will leave it for you, Your Honor. They come and take him, and he doesn't know why. He complained that through 17 days he was interrogated only 3 times. I know that if they're slow, that's transgression. The Imam Ali said that slow justice is injustice. But 17 days is nothing compared to 3 years. I am here before you. I have been here in April next year will be 3 years. 2 years and 8 months. I'm in prison. The case I stand before you here took 2 years and 8 months, only 4 hours. And all of the rest, the time Remaining time, I'm in 2 meters by 1.5 meters cell. 8 months, the first 8 months, I was in one single pajama pants because the top was, the shirt was burned. Solid door, no windows, no sun, I don't know, day from night. And food he's complaining about, I ate food that the animals would not eat. And the insults and the psychological warfare and the beating. If he got 3 sessions in 17 days, I got 4 hours in 3 years. That is injustice. I'm telling him so that he understands that he sees the calamities of others, so that he considers his, if true, to be less traumatic. He mentioned in answering your question,
you're watching the trial of Saddam Hussein in Baghdad. We've been seeing a